Yes, I'm just about to start.
So,
Yep, I'm doing that.
best of luck.
Thank you very much. Hey gang, thank you for joining me today. I am, as you can see, I am once again in downtown Raleigh at the Capitol building. That's Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is the capital of the state of North Carolina. I painted here just, 6 days ago on the 4th of July, and it's now the 10th. So, slightly different angle. And let me show you for a second the building. And let you know that I am, even though this is quite pleasant lighting, it's about to change. How soon? Man, I need to think about this, because the lighting is quite nice, but the sun's going to go around to the left and be hitting this way, and I would guess in about an hour and 10 minutes. I'm thinking out loud here with you. Let me show you what I do. So I've got my backup camera here, and I would take a picture just for reference, just so I can see this lighting. I'm really stuck, because honestly I've been thinking the whole time I'm going to wait and do the lighting this way, but now that I'm looking at it, it's like, dang, but this is so nice. No, I'm going to stick with my original plan. So the original plan is to show light coming from, so I have this picture for future reference, right? But I'm going to not use it right now. Pardon me. Okay, there we go. Okay. So yes, I'm going to stick with the original plan. The lighting I hope to do is this side, which means I can't use the current lighting as my reference, right? I can use the structure of the building, the trees. I can do the drawing without, but I can't refer to the drawing, to the lighting. Okay, let's get started. And as you can see, the final image here is going to be a lot of warm stuff. Sorry, my music's a little too loud. The building is warm. The foliage on the trees and the grass is a warm green. That means a yellowish green. And of course there's a little bit of blue sky, but not much. Okay, so warm grass, warm trees, and warm building. That means for me, and this is the weird Dan Nelsonism. For me, I want to do the opposite of that. So I would do red. The green would make me do red, and the warm building would make me do blue or purple. So okay, red and purple it is. I don't know if you followed that or not. Now if you watch me paint very often, you understand what I'm doing. I start out by making shapes, by making marks on the canvas that are diametrically opposed to, both in terms of color and in terms of shape. I make marks on the canvas that are unrelated, and they're usually, for some reason, that's because I like these kind of shapes. That's the reason, because I like these crazy abstract. And I'm outside today, so yahoo, I can throw some paint around. That's really fun. Okay, so I'm done. And you can ask me, what in the world, why do you start? Are you with me? Let me explain again. I expect this finished painting to be mostly warmish yellow, orange, and green. In fact, I'm going to add some more red to this because I'm not getting enough red. So I'm starting my painting by making marks that are essentially opposite side of the color wheel, and shapes that are completely unrelated to the subject matter. Weird, weird, weird. Right. If you're paying attention, you're going, dang, that's weird. If you're not paying attention, if you're not an artist, you're thinking, I guess that's how artists do it. Well, that's how this artist does it. I'm not trying to be weird, it's just turned out that way. I have found that this provides a really delightful counterfoil. I think that's a good word. Counterfoil. To use a musical term, counterpoint. I think counterfoils may be a theatrical literature term. Counterpoint is there's one melody that goes through the song, and then there's a completely opposite melody that wraps its way around the primary melody, and is a counter melody, counterpoint it's called. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. Now, the next thing I can do while I'm waiting for that to start drying is I can start drawing right away in, yeah, you stand there for 3 or 4 hours, you get in the painting.
Oh, you're on YouTube?
I am, yeah. Either that or I'm schizophrenic and I'm talking to myself.
Extra pencil. Me and my friend are playing a spelling bee, but I'll bring it right back. We're just laying there and I'm going to beat him. Contrary
to what this looks, no, you may not have those.
Okay.
First of all, they're grease pencils. They would not satisfy your purposes very well.
My daughter's an artist.
No. This is unconventional. So
yeah, those are like art pencils, right?
Yeah, and even artists don't use these pencils. So yes, if you would bring this back.
What about contractors?
No.
Because I see those laying around my house.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna tell
sure, please bring it back if you would. Thank you.
I will. Thank you so much. I'm Jenna.
Oh yeah, I know. I use those pencils all the time. Sorry. Anyway, so let's go back to the question: why do I do this? Right? Why do I splatter? Hello, Nicholas Bravo. Thank you very much. It's always so good to get outside. I mean, you know, once all the driving is over and the buying of the canvas is over and the setting up of the easel, the hauling it and the setting, once all that's over, life is good. Woohoo! Okay, why put crazy stuff on the canvas that is not only unrelated, it's related, but related in an opposite way. There's a word for that. It's escaping me at the moment. And that is a very good question. Why would anybody do that? Hard to answer without using too many words. So I'm in grave danger of using too many words. But here goes. I'm answering. Be patient. I'm trying to think of my first sentence. And again, if you follow me often, you've heard me say this. I'm nothing new today. Same old. I'll put it this way. It's because about 17 years ago, year 2000, I had a major epiphany. Now, it's the kind of epiphany that many art teachers, perhaps, not art teachers, painting teachers, there's a big difference. I won't get into it, but people who are trying to teach people to paint well would understand this. The best painting happens when you're trying hard to do something else, or to use Bob Ross's excellent, famous line, "Happy little accidents." the best things that happen in painting are not things that you manipulate and force and control, but they're things that happen accidentally without your permission. Those end up being the best aspects and parts of the painting process. Okay, so that's not new. That's not a Dan Nelsonism. That's a art schoolism. Okay, so that is not unique to me. But what is unique is that a light bulb came on, and in a sense, I said, well, doggone, if the best painting happens while you're trying hard to do something else, then, are you with me? Then why not always do something else? You follow me? Let me use an analogy. A funny, not funny, funny one. If the black box always survives the plane crash, then why doesn't everybody ride inside the black box? Haha, joke, I know, but you got it. You get the humor. So if the best painting happens while you're trying hard to do something else, then why don't you just always do something else? And the answer is, that is now, in fact, yes, what I do. Now, let me give you a little bit of context again. This is repeat for those of you who follow me often, but let me go ahead and repeat it. I live in a world of a particular kind or style of painting. Now, duck, put on your arrogant BS armor. Put your armor on, because I'm about to throw some what could sound like arrogance at you. Okay, so are you ready? I've warned you, so here it is. The way I paint, which is impressionistic, my favorite term is abstract realism, is in fact, yes, the best way to paint in the world, in history. Okay, the best painters, the best paintings in the world are in this general arena of abstract realism. Now, every time I say that, of course, I've got the ghosts of many dear friends and other not so dear but associates are throwing tomatoes at me. Even while I say that, like my dear friend David Stickle is rolling his eyes and goes, "Ah, oh, Nelson, give me a break." Okay, people like to pick on another North Carolina icon, Bob Timberlake. He will never hear me. He's too far above me. He has nothing to do with me. But if he were to hear me, he would throw his cigar butt at me and say, "You're an idiot." Okay? So my statement is not without its detractors, shall we say. But I'm going to stick with it. Now, of course, you can say, well, that's just because that's your opinion. That's just because that's the way you like to paint. And that would be taking this whole discussion down to somewhere around a middle school, junior high level. No, that's not why I have this opinion. I have this opinion because it is, in fact, I'm going to use this term. Now, it doesn't mean I'm right, but I have this opinion. My opinion is what is called a studied opinion, okay? That means it's not something that I just adopted last Tuesday morning, so to speak, or last month, or even last year, okay? And one of the things that gives me some authority in this regard is that I am able, and I have painted hyperrealism or superrealism or realism, whichever term you want to use. I've painted in that manner many times, and in fact, will paint that way again in the future. If you don't believe me, again, I know this sounds arrogant, but just go to dannelsonart.com and take a gander at my illustration page and my portrait page and my automotive page. Okay, illustrations, portraits, and automotive. All in those three categories, you'll find lots and lots and lots of examples of realistic realism, not this impressionistic kind of stuff. Okay, so one of the points, again, forgive me, I'm getting deep in it, and I didn't really need to, but some of you perhaps haven't heard this rant before, so I'm giving you the rant now. I, in fact, used to paint realistically, much more realistically. Instead of abstract realism, like I do now, I painted realism. Oh, another category. So 4 categories. You want to see my realism? Go to the fantasy page. All this is on dannelsonart.com. Fantasy, automotive, portraits, and illustrations. In fact, in the illustration page, you will find classic, traditional, airbrush, photorealistic airbrush illustrations. Okay? So, I used to paint very realistic. What happened to me? Well, again, I had some epiphanies. I had some light bulbs that came on in my head. And I realized. Let me jump to the chase real quickly, because I'm losing some of you because I'm going too deep. So here we go. Why is abstract better or impressionistic? Again, if you haven't watched me paint before, then you don't know how this painting is going to end up. Right now it looks like crazy abstract. No, yeah, but it's not going to be when I'm done. It's abstract realism. Anyway, why is abstract realism superior, in my opinion? And in Rembrandt's opinion, in Franz Hall's, and Frederick Remington, and John Singer Sargent, and hundreds of other very, very famous. Why is abstract realism, my name for this, it's better than impressionistic, because impressionistic is too vague, and people think you mean, oh, you mean impressionism. No, I don't mean impressionism. That's a school. That's Monet. Thank you very much. Love Monet, but don't want to paint like him. Okay, why is abstract realism superior? And the answer is this. And again, this is a studied opinion. It's not just because that's the way I paint. No, I paint this way because I have this opinion. The opinion came first. The technique, the approach to painting came as a result of the insight. Okay, here's why. When an artist, I'll put it in negative, when an artist paints in a hyper-realistic manner, you with me? Realistic, tight, realism. Every blade of grass, Bob Timberlake, every blade of grass, every leaf on the tree, every branch, every twig is carefully painted. When an artist paints, and again, I love David Stickle, and I love his artwork, I really do, but when an artist paints in a super realistic manner, here's essentially what has happened. The artist has done all the work. And the viewer, the person who comes up to the artwork and looks at it and says, golly, or they say, oh my God. That's what they say. That is the response of a human being to a hyper-realistic. Mine too, by the way. My response too is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. I can't believe they did that. That is amazing. That is freaking amazing. Okay? That is how all of us respond to hyperrealism. It's like, dang, that is amazing. Okay? But the what is amazing about it is the amazement that we're experiencing is what I call bear with me for a minute, is an industrial amazement, or an industrial buzz. Like a buzz, we get a little woo, that's happy, that buzz. The buzz that we get from realistic painting is what I call an industrial buzz. What does that mean? What I mean is we're impressed by the industry of the artist. Golly, can you believe how much patience they had, how much skill they had, how much time they took, how much time. That's a huge part. Golly, how long did that take you? And on Facebook and YouTube, you see this all, 600 hours of a pencil drawing to do this girl's face, or to do this eyeball, 40 hours to do an eyeball. You know the kind of stuff I'm talking about? It is impressive. Even I'm impressed. And I like it. Don't get me wrong, I do like it. I just don't like it as, so what's the alternative? If, for realism, the artist does all the work and the viewer is just passive. The viewer just looks at the artwork and the artwork goes, beams themselves at the retina brain of the receiver, the viewer, and the viewer just goes, while the artwork does all the work, because the artist did all the work and put it on the canvas. So the viewer just goes, golly, being a little bit harsh. You understand? Okay, what's the alternative? When an artist like John Singer Sargent paints in an artsy, abstract realism way, the viewer is not passive. The viewer is engaged. The viewer is active. There's give and talk. There's give and take with the canvas. I've got a perfect analogy. There's no analogies. I've got a pretty good analogy. Let me get this straight, okay? That's exactly, it's craftsmanship. That's exactly what we're amazed at. Exactly is, golly, can you believe that skill? Craftsmanship, time, detail. Looks just like a photograph and so on. By the way, that's one of the problems with hyperrealism. It only works in response to the modern invention, contraption of a camera. Anyway, on the other hand, when a viewer, when a person looks at a painting that is abstract realism, they have to actively engage. Okay, I was going to give you an analogy. Here it is. For the past year, my wife and I have had 4 grandchildren and their parents living with us in our home. Love it, love it, love it. Right now the kids are 7, 5, 3, and 1.5. Got that? Got that range? It's really fun. It's fun to see the levels of development. Okay, and of course, like all Americans, we have a couple TVs in the house. And like all American kids, what do our grandchildren want to do? What do they want to do? That's right, they want to watch TV. They want to watch TV pretty much all the time. In fact, I have a saying, I'm the grandpa, so, you know, I get to be weird. And I tell my grandchildren, have told my grandchildren, that watching TV turns your brain to milk. Of course, they know I'm being, not literal, they know I'm being facetious, but they also get the message that, ooh, Grandpa doesn't like, and my name is Big Cut, by the way. Big Cut doesn't like us to watch too much TV because he thinks it's bad for us. And of course, absolutely I do think it's bad for them. So now when my grandchildren come to me, they don't say, can we watch TV? They say, can we turn our brains into milk? And of course, sometimes we say yes. Yes, now's the time. Now, you know, it's movie night, it's family night, we're all going to watch something together. Or, you know, their mom just desperately needs to use the one-eyed babysitter, the TV, so she'll put something on, you know. Are you with me? On the other hand, in fact, just a couple weeks ago, the two older grandchildren, 7 and 5, were in my studio. They love to hang out when I'm painting. And we get along very well. They love me. I love them to pieces. And they love me too. So we get along very well. They love to come to my studio when I'm painting. And so I thought, I know, I'll put on a book. So I got on YouTube and looked up a piece of classic literature appropriate for children. And we all listened to literature on my phone while I was painting. And it was interesting to me. It is interesting because the whole time that the story was on, they were sitting there in their chairs and they had a face kind of like this. Because what are they doing? They're listening to literature. They're listening to a great story coming through the speakers. And they're going like this. You hear? Why? The frumpled brow, the pursed lips. Because they are projecting the picture inside their brain. They are actively cooperating with the story. Their brain, listening to stories on tape, quote unquote, listening to stories on tape does not turn a child's brain into milk. In fact, it strengthens the child's brain and makes their brain anti-milk, actually makes them smarter. Are you with me? When they watch TV, here's their face. Passive, completely passive, just like the TV's doing all the work, their brain is doing no work, that's why their brain's turning to milk. When they're listening to a story, their face is. Can you see the difference? So, TV, story. Get it? With a story, their brain is actively engaged and working. With TV, they don't have to do any work. It's all provided for them. Boom. Realistic painting, brain is passive. You're just a receptor. Golly, that sure is amazing. when a painting is a bit of a hodgepodge of brush strokes, colors, textures, values, but it's not all spelled out intimately, carefully, the viewer's brain is like, oh man, those are cars, that's a bush, those are trees, those are people, those are windows. That's, you follow me? The brain is engaged. So that's why I believe that what I call abstract realism is superior to realism. And it's not because I can't do realism. That is one of my, did it for years. Did it for years. Decades, as a matter of fact. So I like a lot of people paint impressionistic. Let me be really mean for a minute, but honest. A lot of people do impressionistic paintings because they lack the skill to do realism. Some of you have always suspected that that's the case, and I just confirmed your suspicions. Yes, that is exactly correct. Why do a lot of artists do impressionism? Because they lack the chops to do realism. Okay? That is true. I've already told you that is not me. In fact, for me, it's exactly the opposite. Realism is easy. Now it takes time, don't get me wrong, but it's easy. You don't really have to think, you just copy. And I know I've just offended all of my super realistic art friends out there, but it's the truth. It doesn't take much skill. It takes copying skill, which is, for me, easy. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. It's easy. I mean, only people who don't like jigsaw puzzles think they're hard. People who like them, sure, they're hard, but they just take time, so it's not hard. I don't know if that makes sense to you. The jigsaw puzzle analogy takes a lot of time. Realism takes a lot of time, but is it hard? No, you just have to sit there and do it. Okay, that's enough. Rant and rave number, whatever that was, 27 and a half. And I need to, no I don't. I was going to say I need to pause and let this dry. But you know what? I don't. So hang on. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stop the rant and rave though. That's over. You can come out now. Tell your children it's safe. My broadcast is now PG rated again. I think. Okay. Now here, a little bit tricky because I'm trying to paint stuff that does not yet exist in my reference. That is to say, the light, the sunlight, the sunlight is hitting the building, not in the way that I'm going to paint it right now. So I'm doing a little bit of opaque white, but it's not actually opaque. It's quite translucent. Now, one of the things I'm doing, let me show you the subject matter again, just for a minute. More or less, without moving my camera. That's close enough. That's my subject matter. Can you see that? Let me try to get that exposure. Yes, somebody just made an analogy. SF Glim, an analogy to music. Absolutely, that is a very good analogy. Right. Abstract painting is like instrumental music. Music without words. So abstract realism is sort of a hybrid. But that is a very good analogy. And likewise, I do like abstract painting, pure abstract, real abstract painting, or non-objective painting is what it's really called. There's no objects being portrayed in the painting. I like that very much. And again, you can find a whole bunch of my abstract paintings on my website, dannelsonart.com. And it is a lot like instrumental music. Country music fans are country music fans, well, partly because they like the sound, of course, but partly because they like the story, they like the songs. In fact, it's hard for some people, and I don't know if this may be hardwired or it's it's so deeply ingrained in their infancy and childhood that they literally can't conceive of music that's not a song. Music equals, to a lot of people, music equals song. And we're all different. Lord bless them. I grew up in a very serious classical music family. We were all instrumentalists until the youngest son came along. He revolted against the whole thing and became an opera singer. But and he was also an instrumentalist and still is. But all the rest of us were instrumentalists. And I picked up, fairly late in life, I picked up classical guitar. And especially this surprised me in the first 20 years of my classical guitar career. I would tell people that I played guitar, and they'd say, "Ooh, sing us a song." And I'd kind of look at my mouth, say, "Did something just happen? I need a mirror." I just said, "I play guitar," and they just said, "Sing us a song." I didn't say anything about singing. I play guitar. I'm singing that with a guitar. But it is true. I learned the hard way, if you will. That a lot of people, music is synonymous with song. They have a hard time even conceiving of music without this. Doesn't have a song with it. Okay, same way with. It is a good analogy to abstract versus representational painting. Some people can't conceive of a painting that isn't a picture of something. And that's a good description. My paintings are not pictures of something. My paintings are paintings. They are all about line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Did you catch that? My paintings are all about line, shape, value, design, texture. I missed one. And line, shape, color, value, design, texture. There we go. And then there are principles of composition like balance and tension and repetition and rhythm and so on and so forth. The elements of design and the principles of design. Two related but slightly different categories. That's what my paintings are about. Oh, and accidentally, there's a picture of the capital of North Carolina. Okay, I do need to stop now and take a break and let this dry. Thanks for watching. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. My goodness, there I was, painting away. What you watch me for is the excellent broadcast quality. One of these days I'll be able to afford an assistant to come out here with me at all times. Sorry about that. No, I didn't bump the camera a few marks. I actually was zooming in on the building and then forgot to unzoom. Yeah, Paco de Lucia, is he good? He is insane. Oh my goodness. Hey, Japanese friend, Odeku. Yo. Okay, little break time. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in just a few minutes. I need for this to dry. You know what? That's the second time I've said this morning. Oh, good. Thank you, Fumox. I don't have to wait for it to dry, because now while it's drying, I can do pencils. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just full of all kinds of mysterious things here today. So let's do some. So while the white is drying, I am going to take a break in a few minutes, but I don't have to take it yet, because right now I can do drawing. So out, very, very well known in the capital of North Carolina is surrounded by huge, luxuriant, spreading live oak trees. In fact, Raleigh is called, the nickname of Raleigh is the City of Oaks. We don't have a waterfall, we don't have a river going through the city. What we have is oak trees. Somebody said the other day, they were thinking about moving to Raleigh. They were flying over the city, and they couldn't find the city because they looked down, it was just a forest. And then after they moved here, they discovered there were houses underneath those trees. Yeah, that's kind of what it's like here in North Carolina. I'm going to trim back a lot of the trees Let me zoom in on my subject and remember to unzoom it this time. So can you see that? Lot of trees blocking the building. All of this stuff up here, right? I'm going to take down a lot of that so that we can see more of the building. That's certainly one of the advantages, one of the obvious advantages of that a painter has over a photographer. I can move all the trees with only a little bit of trouble. A little bit, not too much. Okay, comment then. Let's talk about these pencils. Why am I using pencils? Is that normal for an artist to use pencils? The answer to that is real simple. No. Now, it is old-fashioned, traditional, like my dad. Traditional oil painters used to use charcoal. They would sketch out something on their canvas first to get started, and then paint on top of the charcoal sketch. And they did not expect any of that charcoal to be visible at the end of the process. That is not what this is, okay? No. I very much expect and want some of these lines to be visible in the final painting. In fact, so much so that I typically do apply pencil to the canvas at least 2 and sometimes 3 times, because I want the pencil lines to show. Okay, so the next big question is, well, why? The most obvious and wrong answer would be, well, because you're drawing your subject matter so that, so that you can achieve realism. So you're drawing so you can capture what it looks like. That would be the obvious, intuitive, but erroneous answer to that question. It is true that I'm benefiting slightly toward achieving similitude, realism. I am benefiting slightly by using pencils, but it's only slight, and far more important than similitude or realism is the texture, right? I said it a while ago. My canvas, this painting is an exercise in line, shape, value, design, color, and texture. Line, shape, design, value, color, and texture. Line, shape, design, value, color, and texture. Got it? Line, shape, design, value, color, and texture. The 6 elements of design. The first one of those that I mention every time is what? Line. Okay? What I am producing with these pencils right now is a celebration of line. In fact, to use it even more, is a celebration of lininess. It is an explosion, a fireworks display of lininess. That's why I'm doing lines right now. Secondarily, it helps me a little bit in capturing this scene, but it's very secondary. The most important function of these pencil lines is, and the way I like to say it's very simple, I get a kick out of the way the scratchy lines interact with the smooshy paint. Okay, if I call paint smooshy, you know what I mean, right? Smooshy. Paint is smooshy, pencils are scratchy. And I like the way the smooshy and the scratchy look next to each other, juxtaposed. I get a kick out of it being juxtaposed because it sounds like just suppose, but anyway, never mind. I like the way these things, and I've reported over the years many times. I stumbled on this lining texture about 2 or 3 years ago when I did a whole bunch of abstract paintings. Very good. There goes the mounted police. I stumbled on this pencil thing when I did, a couple years ago, I did a whole bunch of abstract paintings one summer. Like 200 paintings. in one summer. Abstract, non-objective. And of course, in non-objective painting, I feel like you have a little bit more freedom medium-wise. You can throw everything plus the kitchen sink into your painting. You can do whatever you want. You know, stickers, giclée, not giclée, montage, collage. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? And one of the things I did is I picked up these pencils that were laying around my studio and said, huh, I bet you that'd be kind of fun. And my betcha was very well paid. I discovered I loved adding this scratchy texture. In fact, I loved it so much then I began to wonder, I wonder if that would look good in my representational painting. So the rest, as they say, is history. I've been using it ever since. So yes, I do like the look, the feel. And typically I do at least 2 sessions, 2 applications of pencil in the painting process. Okay, right now I need to put some people in here. How about right here? 2 people. 1 person is okay. 1 person gives the feeling of isolation and adds kind of a little bit of a melancholy, psychological melancholy feeling to the painting. If there's just 1 person, oh, he's all alone, or she's all alone. But if you put 2, it doesn't have that melancholy. So I always decide which way to go. One of my favorite personal paintings that I did years ago was of Duke Chapel. It was a painting over 7 feet tall and about 3.5 feet wide. And it was interior of Duke Chapel. And somehow I had the idea, the brilliant idea, I don't always have brilliant ideas, but this time it was pretty good, of putting 1 person, 1 lonely head, way down at the front of the chapel, far away. And it was just perfect for that scene, for that moment. Hey, while I'm drawing this tree, while I was drawing that tree, did it work?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Who won?
I did.
Oh, sorry. I was drawing a tree. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm announcing, I've mentioned it a little bit, but this is going to happen, hopefully in the next couple of months. I'm going to start a premium online product that I can offer you. It's called Online Painters Forum. I'll try to describe it really quickly. I'm going to have a live classroom here in Raleigh, and I'm going to have 4, 5 or 6, I think, live, not too many, live students in the classroom. And they will pay a certain amount to attend the Online Painters Forum. Everybody else will be, like you guys, online. You pay a fee, and here's what you do. You get to watch. The first hour of this Online Painters Forum is going to be me teaching. And during that hour, I hope to teach at least 3 topics. It'll be how-tos. Real simple, like how to paint trees, how to paint water, how to paint chrome, like shiny stuff on a car, how to paint glass, how to paint faces, oceans, waves, and I've got a list of 60 or 70 different topics. Each forum session, I'll do this hopefully weekly, if not more than weekly. I'll spend an hour teaching 3 topics. How to paint this, that, and the other. Then the second half of the class, maybe more like an hour and a half, will be, you guys will send me your painting, email me your painting. I will tweak it in Photoshop. I'll print it out on canvas about this big. And the students in the class, the live students, will do the same thing. And I'll take a picture of their paintings, and I have a copy. So let's say Bill is one of the guys in my class. We'll put up his painting, And everybody in the class and everybody online will have the opportunity to interface with Bill's painting and say, well, here's what's good, how about this? Here's what's good, I'm wondering if it would look better, this, that, and the other. So that's what a painter's forum does. We all interact. Everybody gets to share. And then, of course, I get to share my take based on some of what other people said and based on what I say. And I will actually tweak their painting. I'll actually paint on, not their, the print of the painting, you follow me? And I'll say, well, how about if you did this? And I'll do some manipulation of their painting right in front of them on the camera. And then we'll go on to Bill, Susie, Theodore. And likewise for the people that are watching from around the world. Okay, so that came to mind when I was drawing this tree, because one of the topics I'm really anxious to do is to teach people how to paint trees. Okay, break time. Thanks so much for watching. I've been going for a long time. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Again, thanks for watching. Hey gang, welcome back. So I had to run up there and see what the building looks like behind the trees in the part of the architecture that I can't make out from here because of all the trees. Okay, now everything on my canvas now is dry. That's important, and it's also important to understand when I do layers of acrylics, but they're transparent except for the white, which ends up, I apply it thinly so it ends up being translucent. But the fact that it's transparent is key, is critical to my technique. So let me continue now with what's next. So the last thing I did here was pencil. And yes, indeed, some of my followers have complained when they try to imitate my technique. They rightfully complain that when they paint on top of the pencil smears. And indeed, it does. So the key is, if you don't want it to smear, the key is to brush it once and don't come back and don't brushy more than once. Got it? So just put it down and leave it, which is, by the way, for most of you is a critical need in your painting technique. Is you need to stop brushing. I call it brushy. Most painters, beginner painters, their default brush stroke is rubby, brushy, and that's a valid stroke, but it's a brush stroke, but it's the one that you should use in a very limited manner. Okay, so that yellow gold that I just did, orange yellow, it represents sunlight hitting the sunny side of this tree. Now I'm doing some blue for the shady side. Let's go ahead and decide right off the bat. There we go. That'll do. Let me tell you what I just did, by the way. I said let's go ahead and decide right off the bat. I just put big blue marks on this sunny face of the building, right? And as you can see, it's not quite. Sorry, kicked you guys around a little bit. Now the sun is right behind me, so it's hitting both faces of that building, which typically is the worst view of a building, is to have the sun right behind you, so the sun is equal on both sides. That's a bad composition. So I'm not going to paint what I'm looking at. I'm still waiting for the sun to get around so that this side is in shade and the sun's over here. Okay, enough of that. I think you probably already understood that, but just wanted to make sure that you were understanding that, what I'm aiming for there. So shade on this side of the building, sun here. Okay, now then why did I put a big swash of shade on the sunny side of the building? The reason is because even if that never materializes, it might, with all these trees here, there's bound to be a shadow cast in the building. But the reason is this is just a trick of the trade. If I did like in my online painting, one of the things I'll do is how to paint buildings. One of the things I'll teach you is never have sun. This is virtually never have sun smacking the entire side of a building. Always put some shadow, some shade on that plane, on that wall. And so here's, at least for now, that's where my shadow is going to be. Now I need to get some serious foliage. That's a hard word to say, foliage. I need to get some serious foliage going up here on this, up here in this part. And your question you'd be very well to ask me, if you're painting foliage, then why are you using purple? Right? Why aren't you using green? Doggone, I don't know. It's just because I know how to paint foliage. That's a worthless answer. That's a worthless answer, isn't it? Because you always, I don't know, most of the time when you're painting the foliage, green foliage, most of the time you want to do underpainting in a contrary color. Cool. Red, orange, red or purple. Because the foliage is going to be green, right? And if you put green in your underpainting, your foliage is going to be hyper green, and that's very unpleasant. You could do orange, red, purple, anywhere on the warm, not yellow. Orange, red, purple, any of those will do very well underneath anything that's ultimately, eventually going to be green. Man, I don't even have time to explain fully why that is. Let me just keep painting. I just want to say, trust me, just trust me. Green is a very dangerous color, and I've talked about that a lot. I won't repeat it here. Let's go back now to doing some more white stuff and really starting to make this face of this building pop. Okay, I say all the time, haven't said it in a while, but I say all the time, the most important aspect of a painting, certainly representational painting, certainly abstract realism, which is the nickname I've given to this technique, which I did not make up. David Leffel, I got that from David Leffel, L-E-F-E-L, just Google him. He's the one who I heard use the term abstract realism, and I said, bingo. That's a perfect, he was describing his painting, and I said, bingo, that's the perfect description for my approach to painting as well. So the most important aspect, like a little while ago, I gave you the 6 elements of design: line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Line, shape, color, value, design, texture. Is one of those more important than the others? And the answer is yes. The word is, the category is values. And the most important aspect of a painting is play of light. Play of light. That's the most important aspect of a painting. So you can already begin to see some of the play of light that I'm attempting to indicate in this painting. And by the way, again, this is all repeat for you people who watch me often. By the way, quote unquote, which way is the light coming from is not play of light. Now, which way is the light coming from is one of those areas of art where you can get vetoed, you can get disqualified, you can get kicked out of the game, so to speak, for getting it wrong, but you don't get any points for getting it right. Does that make sense? Like if you're in the starting blocks, you can get kicked out of the game out of the race by jumping the gun. But just because you don't jump the gun doesn't mean you win the race, okay? You still have to win. Same way with play of light is not jumping the gun. Play of light. So the words that you want to hear and look for that indicate play of light are words like explode, bounce, sparkle, reflect. Reflect's a little weak. You're looking for violent words. Shatter, slice, refract, a little weak. Glow, a little weak. You don't just want something to glow, you want it to explode, glow. I'm exaggerating slightly to make the point because I'm trying to be a good teacher. Got it? So play of light, most important aspect of a representational painting. By the way, I also tend to believe it's the most important aspect of an abstract or non-objective painting as well. And if you look at my non-objective paintings, you say, oh, golly, he does. That's certainly, you could still tell it's a Dan Nelson because it's all about play of light, even though there's no objects. So then you could say, well, is it truly a non-objective painting if it has light in it? And that is a very good question. I don't know the answer. It depends how thin you want to slice it as to whether it's a non-objective painting, if it has the feeling of light about it. Doesn't matter. I'm not likely to change my approach to abstract painting just because somebody might say, well, then it's not non-objective anymore. It's got an object in it. The object is light. I say, okay, whatever. And I've just lost half you because you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna leave that conversation right there. Just leave it be. Okay, but you're certainly beginning to see the sparkle happen, if I can use that word. Sparkle is one of the good words. Glistering, a little bit sparkle with an attitude. You can see a little bit of the painting is starting to glister. Takes me back to my cross-country skiing days. Some of you cross-country skiers, you know what I'm talking about, glister. I want to indicate sun dappling. That's a good word. Dappled, sparkle, dapple, coming through these trees and hitting the ground and creating the dappled effect. In fact, there's classic dappling. Let me turn you here for just a minute. There is classic dappling happening right over there. See that? That is classic. Likewise over there, and so forth. And that's a good subject. That's a good, what's the word? Element to turn into play of light. Yeah, go with it, man. Explode, sparkle that. Make that sun dappling, make it electric, man, make it boom. I'm thinking now of some of the late 19th century French painters. Oh, and I'm forgetting, you know, the party on a boat, you know, the big umbrellas. I'm sorry, I should know the name. You know, women with broad-brimmed white hats sitting under trees holding an umbrella, and the whole painting is just bedazzled. See, that's a good word. That's a good word. You don't just want sun dappling. Bedazzled is a good word. Yeah, so I'm stealing some of that French 1890 bedazzling sun. In fact, I gotta put these people right here. They're not gonna be in the shade. These two figures walking on the sidewalk are going to have sun on them. We don't, as artists, we don't get credit for showing the sun hitting the building. That is not bedazzling. That is not play of light. That's just like, so the sun's hitting the building. Yeah, sun hits buildings all the time. What you get credit for is sun ricocheting, sun sparkling, sun bedazzling the building. Does that make sense? You do not get credit for sun hitting the building. Any idiot can make the sun hit the building. I'm being a little harsh because I'm trying to make the point so that you remember it. Any idiot can make the sun come from the right side and hit the building. You don't get any points. You don't get any credit, artistic, aesthetic credit. You don't knock the socks off your viewer by making the sun hit the building. You have to do something else with it. And that's, I mentioned earlier that you don't ever have the sun hitting the whole plane. You have to have shadow, so there's interplay, so there's vibration, so there's energy happening. All those things. I'm trying to come up with words, synonyms for play of light. Okay? I think I'm done with that layer. And you may notice that, okay, so is it time to go to oils? I always finish the acrylic layer, with oils. No, I always finish the acrylic layer with white. Whew! Pay no attention to that artist talking. So is it time to go to oils? It's time to go to oil when most of the values are close. The drawing is close, the values are close, the colors are close. Drawing, values, color. When they're all close. And okay, the answer to that is nope, they're not close enough. So no, it's not time to go to oils. But I do need then to take a little break because this needs to dry. If you paint transparent color on top of white, wet white, it picks up the white and makes it opaque. And then we've lost the magic of transparency. So I have to take another break, wait for this to dry. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Hello, Scott Parker Worship. Sorry I missed your comment earlier. That's right. In fact, I don't think you ever graduate out of capturing light. It's a big deal. Okay, next. What am I going to do next? I'm going to do dark details in paint. I've done some, as you've seen, I've done some dark details with pencils, but now I'm going to do some drawing, if you will, in paint. Now let me, again, this is a repeat for those of you who are regular viewers, but for those of you who are not. So how does one decide what to do next, right? How does one decide what to do next at any given point? And I have an answer to that question. Not the only answer, but I have a good answer to that question. How do you decide what to do next? And to answer that question, I have an analogy. But before I give the analogy, let me give a broad statement. All good paintings, it's a broad statement. All good paintings are the result or the product of good process. Let me say that again. All good paintings are the product of good process. The painting's not so good, what's the matter with it? Well, it might be a bad drawing, but if the drawing's good and it's still a bad painting, something wrong with the process. Okay, all good paintings are a result of good process. So what is good process? Ah, so glad you asked. Right on cue, too. I have an analogy, a word picture that I use to describe good process. I compare good painting to good dancing. Now, by dancing, I mean like choreographed, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dancing. Okay, good dancing. All good dancing is choreographed. There's this move, then that move, then this move, then that move. This step, then that step. Now, I can't do any of this stuff that I'm talking. I'm not a good dancer, but I know enough to know that good dancing is a series of carefully choreographed steps, if you will. Okay? Same thing in painting. Good painting is a result of good, well choreographed paint steps. Instead of dance steps, it's painting steps. And I've broken the steps down into 6 categories, or 3 couplets. A lot of good dancing is couplet steps. This step followed by that one. Okay, here it is. This is, forgive me, review for those of you who follow me often, but here it is. Big steps, large steps and little steps, light steps and dark steps, literal steps and artsy or expressive steps. I'm going to give you those again. You'll notice the first one in each couplet begins with the letter L. That's just a little extra freebie mnemonic device to help you remember these 3 couplets, okay? They are light, dark, large, small, and literal and expressive, or literal and artsy. I'm leery about the word expressive because so many people in our culture think that art is about self-expression. You have to do the gesture, okay? Back of wrist to forehead. That's the gesture for I am expressing myself. Well, I am most certainly not expressing myself, although myself is expressed in the act of painting, but I'm not trying to express myself. I'm trying to do a good painting. Get it? Okay, so that's why I'm leery about the word expressive, but in the broadest sense of the word, I guess that's sort of what I mean. Okay, so let me give you those 3 couplets again. Large, small, light, dark, literal, and expressive. Okay, what that means is that as I'm painting along, painting process, I do one thing, then I do another, then I do another, then I do another, right? Well, how do I know which another to do? Are you with me? How do I know, how do I decide which another, making up words here, which another to do? And the answer is, well, if my last step was little and light, that is small marks and light color, light value, then my next step, it should be the opposite of that. Maybe large or dark, large, dark, and whatever. So right now I'm doing little, that is little marks, as opposed to big marks. See the difference? Little marks, big marks. Little marks, big marks. Okay? It's all relative, of course, depending on the size of your painting and so forth. So what I'm doing right now is little, dark, and literal. That is to say, I am pretty carefully rendering, drawing, illustrating, rendering, copying the picture in front of me, the scene in front of me, right? So I call this current step is little, small brush, dark, I'm applying darkness to the canvas, little, dark, and literal. So my next step after this one is dry will be anything but, probably, little, dark, and literal. I said that really fast. Anything but small, little, dark, a value, and accurate. So I could, my next layer could be anything, and I'm going to switch a little bit here. I'm kind of doing medium. What? Hello. Okay, hang on, gang. I've got an audience here, a live audience, so I'm going to turn you off for a minute so I can talk to my new friends. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in just... Graciela Schuring. Thank you for that blessing. I receive it. So a number of things have happened during that break. I had a classroom of young art students come by. So I chatted with them for a while, but I've done warm glaze, cool glaze, and white. So now, this episode, just long enough to tell you goodbye. I'm done with the acrylics, and I'm going to switch over to oil and finish the painting. That'll take a couple hours at least in oil. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back in just a minute. Link. Oh no. Oh wait, I do have. Hang on. I was gonna say I'm out of coffee. Hey guys.
How you doing?
Really good.
Really nice.
Thank you. There you go. There's a link right there. Thank you. Well, here, since I'm giving out cards.
Okay. Local artists?
Yes, yes. Where are you guys from? From here or visiting?
I was born in Cleveland, but from around this area, that's where we stand at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you. Please do. Hey guys, I'm back. So I just did a glaze, oxide red. It's the name of it, oxide red, which means it's a brown. You know, artists have weird names for color. Usually it's a pigment, so oxide means like rust, right? Oxidized iron is red. So I believe that's what oxide red means, rust red, basically. And I use liquid. You probably know this unless you're new to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Hi, my name is Dan Nelson. I'm painting in beautiful downtown Raleigh, North Carolina today. Painting at the Capitol grounds. Can I show you the Capitol? Yeah, pretty much, kind of, without moving the camera too much. There you go. Gorgeous day, my goodness. I had no idea it was going to be so nice out here. Okay. I'm thinking. Can you tell I'm thinking? That's what I look like when I think. You know what? I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to try an experiment. Never done this before. At this point in the painting process, I'm going to turn the sky pink. Pink orange. Okay? I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. It's an experiment. We'll find out. We'll all find out together. Okay, now why would I paint the sky? Why would I paint the sky pink, right? Well, first of all, the answer to every such art question is the same. Why would I paint pink? The answer is because I think it's going to look cool, right? And I hope you can hear me here. I know it's getting a little noisy. Because I think it's going to look cool. So that's the real answer. But let me, or that's the short answer. Let me try to flesh that out a little bit. The reason I'm doing pink is because I know that a blue sky, my sky is going to be blue eventually. So the pink is just underpainting. Usually, okay, let me back up. Usually if I want my blue sky to be underpainted pink, I do the pink in the acrylic stage. You with me? This, for the first time, this is the first time I've ever tried this, I'm doing the pink in the oil glaze stage. Instead of Now I'm doing a little bit of yellow. Instead of in acrylics, I'm doing it in oil. So we'll see. So I'm going to do blue on top of that pink. And the question is why? The answer is always because I think it's going to look cool. Now I do happen to know from much experience that a blue sky that's underpainted in pink, salmon, orange, even yellow is a very cool looking sky. Okay? I've just never tried to do the pink in this manner before. Now, since I've done a whole bunch of pink up there in the sky, I'm going to do some down here as well. It's usually a good rule of thumb that wherever you use a color, it's a good idea to use that color elsewhere on your canvas. Especially that is true with landscapes. You form a clamshell. There's a symmetry between the top and the bottom of the painting. So in landscapes in particular, good idea if you've got something at the top to have something comparable at the bottom. Again, we're all going to find out together if this ends up being a good idea. Now some violet, some purple. I'm going to darken this corner in particular. The word, I think everybody knows the word vignette now. That used to be a word that kind of only us artists knew, but all of you guys that have smartphones now, your camera on your smartphone has a special effect called vignette, which means darkening the corners. Not what it means, but that's in effect what it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm afraid this can be a little bit hot here, so. Okay. So I've just effectively vignetted, if that's a word, darkened all four corners. Again, generally a good idea. Not a hard and fast rule, but generally a good idea. Okay, next. I don't think I have any clean rags here, so I'm going to have to use paper towel, which is not ideal. Paper towels don't leave as pleasant a mark as a nice cotton rag does, but it'll do in a pinch. So since I don't have a cotton rag, paper towel will have to do. So now I'm negative painting, right? Lifting out, taking stuff off the canvas, thus the term negative, lifting out. And again, somebody might ask, well, if you're just going to take it off, why did you put it on in the first place? Why, if you're going to wipe it off, why didn't you just paint around that area? First of all, it would have taken a lot of very fussy painting to paint around carefully. But more importantly, more fundamentally than that, to put something on, to put paint on and then to take paint off is not the same as not putting paint on, right? Anybody who's an expert furniture refinisher knows that a hand rubbed finish is the best kind of finish there is, right? And so what I'm achieving here is essentially a hand rubbed finish. It's like I'm treating the paint like a stain. And by the way, this is part of the reason why oil paints are so much easier to work with than acrylics. You can't do this with acrylics. Now, leave taking out some of that brown now, because I want to make this face just a little bit bluer painting with a rag, negative painting, reverse painting, whichever term you want to use, it allows you to have like ultimate control. It allows you to have super control without making ugly marks, without making control freak marks. And you get to be a control freak but not look like it. Got it? Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Yahoo! In fact, I'm quite happy with that. I have a bag hanging on the back of my easel to put all my trash. I went and got an iced caramel latte during my last break. Okay, so at this point, two options. One is I do pencils again for the second time, and then I draw with brushes, or I'm going to draw with brushes and then draw with pencils. And because there's already a fair amount of pencil marks on the canvas, today, this time, I'm going to draw with pencils. Hey man,
Hi.
you feel feel free to come up and talk if you want. Okay, so I'm going to draw with fairly small pencils, brushes, and this will be like the 6th or 7th time that I've, drawn this scene, so to speak. Hey man, sorry,
Hi.
I'm either talking to myself or I'm talking to people on YouTube, one or the other.
I think
Oh, I'm
YouTube's
talking to
all
3
right.
people. my massive crowd of fans, my thousands of fans. Thanks for watching, all 3 of you. So I'm going to draw. Next question is what color to draw with, and the answer is various colors, different colors. But okay, what color to start with? You have to start with something dark.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And yeah, I think I need to put out some more. Need to put out some more. One of my favorite reds. Well, I have 3 favorite reds. Okay, but this is one of them for sure. Maybe of the 3, this is my most favorite, which is Permanent Rose. Very transparent. So I'm going to draw with Permanent Rose. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit of naphthol. Okay, my 3 reds. This is review for you old timers. My 3 reds are Permanent Rose, Naphthol Crimson, Deep, and Orange Lake. I have a granddaughter named Lake. So we have great fun. I declared to her that was her favorite color, was Orange Lake. She got a big kick out of that. She's 5. Love her to pieces. Love all of them to pieces. And sometimes they watch me. Hey Kang, hey kids, if you're watching me, I love you. Can't wait for you to get home tomorrow. Okay, so right now I'm drawing in red. Okay, somebody please ask me why red. Good, thank you. Thank you somebody for asking me that question. Okay, now class, the answer to every such question in the world of art, world of painting is the same. Right? I can give you the same answer. Why am I painting? Why am I drawing in red? Because why? Somebody got it. Because I think it looks cool. Because I think it's gonna look cool, right? That's the, if you will, the smart aleck but true answer is why am I outlining in red? Because I think it's gonna look cool. Okay, now what makes me think it's gonna look cool? Well, for one thing, past experience, right? I happen to know from many years of my experience and other painters as well, that little bits of red peeking around the finished painting, the final product, is charming, beautiful, delightful, cool. Okay, so in other words, I know that outlining in red often yields a very happy result. It just looks cool. It's very close. Outlining in red is very closely related to a common approach to oil painting. one of the common approaches to oil painting is to tone the entire, that is to paint the entire canvas red, traditionally vermilion red, but you don't have to worry about that part. Paint the entire canvas red before you start, okay? And I do like Kathy Martin here in North Carolina, in Raleigh. She's a, you know, she's the best known local artist for doing the vermilion toned underpainting. If anybody knows Kathy and you hear me talking, please tell her I said hi. And I love her stuff, love her work. And even though I don't normally tone my canvas red, I very much like that approach. And this is kind of like that, except instead of toning the whole canvas, now I'm just drawing the outlines. Please, you understand, of course, that everything I'm doing still is considered and called underpainting, right? So everything that I'm doing is going to be covered up, but of course not completely covered up, just somewhat covered up. And the magic is in the somewhatness. The magic is how much. The magic is how much do I let this hot pink dark red show through? And the answer is I have no idea. It's not my job right now to decide how much of this should show through. That's not my job. It's my job just to draw in this color. And I'll decide during the final edit, I'll decide how much of this red I want to show through. And frankly, whoops, I just put a line in the wrong place. Frankly, I'm putting too much red on the canvas at the moment. Are you with me? But it would be a mistake for me to try to hold back, cut back, and I'd be operating it out of order. No, it works very fine for me just to go ahead and draw as much as I want, a lot in red, and I'll edit out some of this later on. How much? I have no idea. That's not for me to decide right now. That's for me to decide later on how much to edit out. I suppose one of the ways to describe my approach to painting, it's certainly not unique to me, is that I've broken the process of painting down into several discrete layers or stages or phases. I'm saying the same thing over and over. One way to describe my approach to painting, and many other people's as well, this is not a Dan Nelsonism, this is pretty universal, is that I am breaking the painting process. Instead of trying to do everything all at once, I'm taking every part of the painting process and extrapolating it out over several different stages, several different phases. Does that make sense? And again, that not at all unique to me, but definitely a description of the way that I paint. So I don't have to decide right now, you know, many things. All I have to decide right now is where to put these now purple lines. I was doing red, I just switched to purple. Oh, why did I switch to purple? Okay, just for fun, because I think it'll look cool. Okay, but why else? Because variety is better than monotony. So drawing the whole thing with one color would be okay, but drawing with several different colors will be better, because variety is better than monotony. Dude, did you catch that? Variety is better than monotony. Variety in painting is the essence of interestingness. By the way, I'm using a, what's the word? I started painting, I'm not going to get into the long story right now. I started painting with two hands about 12 years ago. And my left hand originally was not at all coordinated, completely uncoordinated. And yet, ironically, my painting improved instantly the second I began using two hands. But anyway, over the years, now I am quite ambidextrous, quite. I'm still favor my right hand. But my left hand does vertical marks better than my right hand. And that is really funny. I have no idea how to explain that, why that is the case. All I know is that my left hand is better at making vertical strokes than my right hand is, which is just funny, just peculiar. Now you understand, I'm sure you do, I don't need to say this, but anytime you're making any part of your canvas darker, like I'm doing right now, anytime that you're making part of your canvas darker, you do it with transparent colors, like a watercolorist. If you try to make some part of your canvas darker using opaque paint, you're creating mud. That is in fact what mud is. If you want a full dissertation on that, just go to YouTube. After you're finished with this YouTube, go to YouTube and do a search for Dan Nelson mud, and you'll find about it. My video, it's about 11 minutes long, I think, where I describe in great clarity and detail what mud is. Where does mud come from? What is mud? It has nothing to do with color. It has to do with the misuse, the misappropriation, if I may use a nice big word, the misappropriation of opaque paint, opaque colors. Now using pretty much a straight violet, purple dioxazine violet probably. It's probably the exact color that's here, although can't prove that. Could be some other. It's not cobalt because I don't, or cadmium. It's not cadmium because I don't use cads basically as a rule ever. Okay, let's do some trees. Let's do some tree painting, and some of you need to really pay attention to how I am moving when I'm doing trees. Right now I'm doing the branches. I'll come back and do the foliage later. Let me there's the tree that I'm rendering right now. Okay? So you see all those, the boughs, the branches, the limbs are quite prominent, quite obvious. And in a sense, that's what I'm doing right now. Is here's a good trick. After drawing, then come in here and scratch. The handles of these cheap chip brushes, by the way, are really excellent for scratching like that. They're just the perfect edge, if you will. Okay, there's one tree. Here's another tree. Again, all this is purple. All this is underpainting, etc. Adding some ultramarine blue to my brushes now, so I get even darker color. Need to add some boughs, some branches, some big limbs up here to this tree. By the way, I'll often, when I have to draw lines, a lot of lines real quickly, I'll actually dip my brushes in Gamsol, Turpenoid, you know, whatever the stuff I'm using to clean my brushes, because I'll get a better long stroke by dipping them, so they're kind of wet, a little bit drippy. Does that make sense? You know what I need? And I'm going to dirty up this purple here a little bit. I need some limbs coming down this way from this tree. Yeah, there we go. Whoops! So that stroke right there is too fat. You see which one I'm talking about? That one right there. That doesn't look like a branch. So now it's okay. Make sense? Let's do there. Okay, I think I'm done drawing with brushes. Started with red, then went to red purple, then went to purple blue, and then ended up with dark blue brown. Very typical for me. Okay. Some of the outlining around this part of this house, this building is just too tight, too fastidious is the word I like to use. Too fastidious, too fussy. So I just messed it up, looks better. Now typically, yes, this is typical. Typically, I was going to say, after doing the drawing with small brushes, dark paint, small brushes, the next thing I do is draw in pencils. My black, jumbo black grease pencil, essentially. And yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm drawing now for the, 6th or 7th or 8th time, drawing this subject, drawing this building and these trees. Why am I using pencils? Okay, come on. What's the smart aleck answer that's the same for every question? Why am I using pencils? Because I think, thank you, because I think it looks cool. Exactly. Because I think it's going to look cool. Now, why do I think these pencils are going to look cool? Well, it's because, at least at this point in my painting journey, I feel like the juxtaposition, the next to-ness, the butting up of one against the other, the juxtaposition of scratchy lines with smooshy brush is pleasant, looks cool. I think it looks cool, so that's why I'm doing it, because I think it looks cool. And again, a more fuller answer has the word juxtaposition in it. It means when something is positioned just next to something else. I'm making that, that's not really true, but just to help you understand what the word juxtaposition means. It's juxt next to something else. And I'm using the pencils a little bit for similitude, for realism, for achieving, making it look like this building. But more than that, I'm using the pencils just to create a fun texture. Been using pencils, which is very unconventional. Been using pencils in my paintings for about 3 years now. And for a long time I was saying, I don't know if this is a permanent part of my repertoire, a permanent part of my vocabulary, if it's just a phase that I'm going through. But now that I'm 3 years in, I'm going, I think this is probably a permanent part of my style. My preferred technique is using these pencils, just because I like it. I think it looks cool. Time for me to go put more money in the parking meter. So bear with me. Need to take a quick break here. Okay, break time. Money in the parking meter time. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in 2 hours, so I'm good to go. Hey, Art Taylor. Yeah, rather chaotic. That's a good word. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 layers. I could go back and count, but I would guess I've done about approximately 12, 13 layers so far. Got 2 more to go. The last layer is light, opaque, mostly opaque, some translucent, light, opaque highlight. But this next to the last layer, and again, this is a fairly new step of the process for me. I call it the fuzz layer or the translucent layer. Now, again, I always urge people to get their vocabulary straightened out. Transparent is clear, like glass, right? The glaze that I put over the whole canvas a little while ago was transparent glaze. Translucent is fuzzy, like a frosted light bulb. And what I'm going to do right now is, wherever there's something that's very bright, like the corner of this building, I want to mess it up. I want to add light to it. I want to add fuzz to it, just like I just did. These people, the top of this light post, top of that light post, this corner of this building. And by the way, you may wonder, well, do you have to do it that fast? The answer is, for me, almost absolutely have to. Because if I try to do it slowly, I'll freak out and get scared and tighten up, and I won't be able to force myself to make this much of a mess. Because at the moment, frankly, yes, it feels like I am messing up my painting up here on this. Now here I am gonna, well, I didn't need to do that because I'm gonna do blue over that in just a minute. Okay, and this fuzz layer pertains really only to the light spots. I don't fuzz dark spots. I just fuzz whatever's light. And by fuzz, I mean soft edges, which you see me doing really, or messy edges, another word. Messy edges, soft edges, translucent, not opaque, and glow. That's, I could call this, I sometimes call it my glow layer. So in a sense, I just messed up my painting a bunch, right? Which, if I hadn't done this before, if I'd never done this before, in fact, I'm getting braver, happy to say I'm maturing in this step of the process. If I hadn't done it before, I'd be really nervous. Except, good news, I have done it before, and I'm learning to get over the nervousness. Because it looks to you guys like I just messed up my painting. And I did mess it up. But it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. I'll show you in a few minutes. I decided to do a little bit more right here. I'm gonna mix up some sky blue right now and do a little bit of fuzz with blue. Don't like that blue. I can leave that there, but I don't want to do any more of that. It's too aqua color, too greenish. I want something that's more true blue, or in this case, phthalo blue. So let me clean off these brushes and do that again. Yeah, actually I'm going to take off just a little bit of that. Okay, good enough. Okay, back to white and phthalo blue. Got way too much paint on these brushes, so I'm going to have to do some of the... So that pink that I had up there a little while ago is already disappearing under this fuzzy blue stuff. So my pink sky is already, before I even get to the last layer, which is where it will really turn blue, it's already beginning to turn blue. Now, here's why I mixed up some blues. I want to do some sky holes. The misnamed sky holes, they should not be called sky holes, but as I say, the day that all the artists of the world got together and decided to name these sky holes. I was absent. I was not invited to the party. So they went on without me and named them. But it's a very foolish name. Should not be called sky holes. Because look down here. That's not it's holes, but it's not sky. So here it's a building hole. So it shouldn't be called sky holes. It should be called tree holes. But be that as it may, like I said, I was not invited to the party. So they're traditionally called sky holes, even though very often it's not sky behind the holes, it's something else. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So sky holes, those are a bunch of soft sky holes. I'm going to paint a little bit with a rag to make all those even softer. I said just the other day, I was teaching on sky holes a little bit, and the question is, should sky holes have soft edges or hard edges? The real answer is both, soft and hard. In fact, even leaning a little bit more toward soft than hard. But, big but coming up. Okay, so the technically correct answer is, should sky holes be hard edge, have hard edges or soft? The answer is both, leaning even more toward soft. But, big but. I have yet to find one student, I'm sure there is one somewhere, but I have yet to find one student anywhere in the world who makes their sky holes hard-edged enough. In other words, students almost virtually universally always make them fuzzy, and that's a mistake. Learn how to make them sharp and then soften them up. If you can't make a sharp-edged sky hole, you don't understand the concept yet. Okay. But the technical answer to the question, should they have hard edges or soft? The answer is both, leaning slightly more toward the soft. Unless you're a student, then forget everything I just said and learn to make hard edge sky holes, and then as you mature, you can soften them up. They're not easy, by the way. Okay, am I done? I think so. Hallelujah. Okay, I am down to the last layer. Light opaque highlights, aka final edit. 4 different options, 4 alternatives, 4 different places you can start the final layer. 1, traditional opening, you start with the furthermost object, which for a landscape is always the sky. Start with the sky and move forward. That's option number 1. Option number 2, start with the lightest, brightest, whitest object and then darken down from there. That would be this corner of the building. It's going to be the lightest, whitest, brightest thing in the whole painting. Here and here. Maybe a tiny bit there. And then darken down from there. Option number 3 is start with any object that's not the right color. That could be the grass down here needs to be quite a bit, it needs to be leveled, smoothed out and made dull green, dull yellow green, or the foliage up here, okay, that all needs to be shifted. That's a good option for this in this painting. And number 4 is start at the focal point, which may be these 2 figures, and work out from there like rings, like consecutive rings on a target, bullseye, move out, or this is the bullseye, one or the other, or this, one of those 3 objects, one of those 3 places, probably this one. Those are the 4 options. Now, the question is, what am I going to do? I'm thinking. I'm going to do sky today. 2 reasons for that. One, it's the furthest away, and it's an object that the local color needs to be corrected. In other words, it's still got a lot of pink in it. I don't want a pink sky. I want a blue sky with a pink underpainting. And again, why? Because, finish with me, because it looks cool. Correct. That's why an artist, a real artist, a visual artist, that's why a real artist does everything they do, is because it looks cool. Now, let me explain real quickly. So who's not a real artist? And the answer is people who are not, in my opinion, who are not visual. They're not painting things to look at. They're painting things to think about. In other words, socio-political communicators. Those those professors and their students who've drunk the Kool-Aid, who believe the purpose of art is to communicate. I do not believe the purpose of art is to communicate. The purpose of art is to look at, to make stuff to look at.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Here I am ranting and raving. I didn't know there was somebody standing right behind me listening to my rant. I hope she liked it. Okay, so this pink underpainting, will it work? Well, it will work if I handle it just right, because the magic is in the interplay between the pinkness, the pink showing through, and the blue on top. It's the, again, the word juxtaposition. It's the pink next to the blue, but in this case, even more precisely, the pink underneath the blue, that creates a delightful vibration in the optic part of our brain. Delightful visual vibration where the pink is interacting and vibrating is really a good word. Vibrating with the blue. Now, if you were with me a little while ago, you might remember that I said this is the first time ever that I've done the pink, that I've made my sky pink in the oil glaze phase of the painting process. Usually if I want my sky to be pink, then I will make it pink in the acrylic phase. So this is an experiment. You know, we're going to find out if we like this or not. We're all going to find out together. So far, I'm thinking, yep, I'm thinking I like it just fine. Our Capitol building has a, frankly, rather strange crown shape at the top. A series of round shields, targets, pendants. I'm using target in the old-fashioned broad sense of the word, not archery target, not that kind of target. It's a round thing. And it's a little bit of a, as an artist, it's a little bit of a strange shape. I don't find it extremely aesthetically pleasing. It's not terrible. It's like, really? I'm not sure that was a good decision. That aesthetically, it looks kind of 19th century, 18th century-ish, which is okay. I like 18th century architecture, but yeah, it doesn't look like a great example of 18th century architecture. Anyway, never mind. That's what's up there at the top of that building. I'm rendering it slightly faithfully so that the locals can tell what it is. I want locals to be able to look at it and go, oh yeah, that's what's at the top of our Capitol building. Now, back to sky holes. So, as you can see, I already have a bunch of very soft-edged, I'm going to use that, make up that word, soft-edged sky holes. Soft, fuzzy bits of blue up here. Now I want to intersperse with them some fairly hard-edged sky holes. To create the effect of a tree. Now, let me tell you a little bit more where we're going with this. after I finish the sky holes, the tree is not finished. I am in fact going to come back with dark, transparent, dull brownish green and paint on top of this, and then come back a second time, or third time if you will, and do more pale blue, because you always finish with the light, not the dark. Does that make sense? I mean, you can finish with the dark if you want to, but if you do, you're breaking a rule, and it probably won't look good. And you'll be mystified as to why it doesn't look that good. And I've just given you the answer. It's because you want to finish with darks, not lights. Every rule can be broken, including that one, of course. But if you don't know what the rules are, as I like to say, you're probably just screwing up. And so you learn the rules. One way to describe the essence of growing as an artist is learning more and more and more and more what it is that human beings think looks cool. And you'll notice there's a distinct lack of subjectivity in that statement. Human beings, all human beings, except the ones who've got a master in fine arts and have drunk the Kool-Aid, they don't count because they have been corrupted in their aesthetic sensibilities. But all the rest of human beings find certain things to be attractive and other things to be not attractive. Again, people with MFAs and some BFAs do not count because they have been corrupted. Their naive, native, childlike sense of aesthetics has been violated by much education. But everybody else, human beings, throughout space and time, human beings tend to like the same kinds of things. And it's amazing. What is amazing is not how subjective that is, but how objective that is. And again, in spite of what most art professors say, there are things that most human beings regard to be considered to be attractive, nice to look at, fun to look at. I won't get into it now, but yes, I have been for the last 6 or 7 or 8 years in the process of writing a book on modern art, where I try to explain it. If you want to get some of it in visual form, just go back on my channel about 2 weeks to a broadcast called the Art Multiverses of the early 21st century. And I gave a presentation here in the Raleigh area on the subject of modern art. And if you want to hear more about it, go there and listen to that. For what it's worth, I consider myself to be a philosopher who happens to paint, not a painter who happens to philosophize. My core identity is teacher, philosopher, and I happen to paint. My core identity is not I'm an artist. That's just something I do. What I am is a teacher and a thinker. So I feel like I'm in my native. I think somebody actually said stick to painting. Well, sure, they can say that, but not. My real identity, my core identity in life is a teacher, not a painter. I'm glad I paint. I like painting. But I'm a teacher who paints, not vice versa. Not a painter who teaches. At least in my little old humble opinion. Which may not be little or old or humble. One of my listeners, viewers, I forget now which one. If you're listening, please leave a comment because I'm forgetting which one of you said if you do sky holes poorly, they turn into sky dots. That's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Love it. Tony, was that you? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting now who it was. Anyway, yeah, real easy for these to turn into sky dots. So it doesn't look like sky peeking through a tree. It looks like dots on the tree. Horrid things. Lots of people walking by thinking I'm schizophrenic and I'm talking to myself. Don't mind me. Recent escapee here. Pretty good painter for an escapee. Okay. Enough of the sky for at least for a while. Well, I've got this blue on my brushes though. Let's mix up a slightly darker, slightly dirtier version of that, and get some of the reflection in these windows up here. And I think while I'm doing sort of distant pale colors, I'm going to go ahead and do the distant trees down here. Which are going to be a pale green. All right, let's talk about how to paint trees just a little bit. So if you were watching me a while ago, most of you probably were not, when I did some of these branches, some of these limbs, I took two big brushes and I loaded them up with some dark, in this case purplish paint, and I just scribbled, blah, 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 and I did the same, scribbled more with pencils, like this. And now I'm coming in here with opaque paint and using those scribbles, deciding which ones I like and which ones I don't like, which ones look like branches and which ones don't look like branches. The ones that don't look like branches, I'm painting them out, covering them up. Does that make sense? That's why I call this the final edit phase. The final edit stage is I get to cover up anything that I don't like. Anything in this case that doesn't look like a limb or a branch or a twig, I just covered up more or less with this more or less opaque green paint. And then what's left looks like branches. It's not because I painted them carefully to look like branches, I just made a mess. But it's that final edit that makes them look like branches, because I'm eliminating the ones that, to me, don't look like branches. That make sense? Hello. Feel free to interrupt. Most of the time when people come by, I'm up and they think that the artist doesn't want to be interrupted, so they keep a really safe distance. And I feel a little bit bad for them, because I'm like, no, come, you can come look, it's okay. I know you don't see an artist out here every day. Feel free, come up and talk to me. But usually they're gone before I get that much out, so that's what just happened right there. People are being nice. Unlike me, they're being nice. Some of the same color that's over here, it reflected in these lower windows down here. You get it? Now, what I'm applying, the color that I'm applying to the canvas right now, I typically call it opaque, but in reality, 80% of it is translucent. That is, you can see through it. So I'm just pushing stuff back, but I'm not obliterating it most of the time. I think only 10 or 15% of the canvas, when I'm finished, will actually have opaque paint on it. Only 10%. 40% maybe will have translucent paint on it, which is what all that blue is translucent except for a few bits that are opaque. All of this green is translucent except for a few little bits that are opaque, and so on. Very, very typical. Now, I'm trying to decide what to do right there. I think I'm going to go with what's already there and make that a pale or green, more yellow-green. In other words, more sun hitting the distant trees down here. Here comes my wife. How about that? Oh, she actually said she might come by. And she did. Hey, baby.
Hello.
Well, how are you? Okay, folks, my wife's here, so I'm going to pause and bring you guys in a little bit later. They don't know who you are. Okay. Say hi to my friends. Okay. Bye-bye. Hey, so that was nice. A little surprise visit from my wife, Nancy. Let me show you something I don't do very often, but it's fun when I do. So I just, scumbled in a bunch of medium translucent light green over here. And it's a little bit of a rare element in my repertoire, but I can come in here and, again, reverse paint, negative paint. Paint by taking paint off the canvas. Again, anytime you paint with a rag, it gives you the freedom of exerting a high degree of control without actually turning into, without the downside of control freak painting. Because your strokes are very loose and free. Okay, that's good enough. Here's a sweet little accident that's happening. Sweet, happy little accident. Those are the best kind, of course. This color that I put on top almost matches exactly the shady part of the shady side of this building over here. So I've just mixed up this exact color. Well, not exact. Let me get more exact. And I'm going to come over here and accentuate, re-emphasize, in fact, this green color. Because it's already here, right? Now, not over the whole thing. No, just in this corner, because that's where that's where it is, and that's where it's showing up. Now, I'm interrupting myself. in this final edit phase. I also call it light opaque highlights, even though some of it is translucent and opaque, but I still call it essentially light opaque highlight. So it's light, and I don't plaster, cover up lots. I just cover up little bits here and there, especially along the edges of things. I'd say on both sides of this lamppost, I'm doing a bit of that green. Then it kind of fades out. Being careful not to create an accidental halo. Same thing here, painting out both sides of the lamppost and up to the edge of the window. So, in other words, I use this light opaque highlights to define things. See how I just defined that window to a greater degree than it was? It was already there, but I just defined it somewhat. So this last layer is a layer of definition. That's a good word. Never used that before. This final edit phase of the painting is a phase of definition. A little bit more green, again, because it's up here. And before I leave this area, let me zoom in here real quick, because this is a good teaching moment. Now, if you were here with me at the beginning of this painting, then you saw the very first thing that I did was this big purple and fuchsia, magenta, X-shaped things. Red and purple. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And the good question at that time was, dang, why are you doing red, purple X's, for want of a better term? Why are you doing red, purple X's on the canvas? The reason is because I know that it's going to pay off late in the painting. And it is so paying off right here. Let me show you. So here's this side of this building coming together very well. This blue mark, well, I'm not sure about that one. But certainly this little purple, hazy purple here, all in here. See all that purple-ish stuff? That's all ghost, remnant of that initial abstract splash. And now it is paying off. It is looking so sweet. See, one of the ways I describe my painting process, I am not smart enough to paint good. Don't, oh, Daniel, no. I'm not begging for compliments. No. Listen to me. I am not smart enough to paint good. But doggone it, I'm smart enough to spot, recognize, and see good painting when I see it. You with me? Not so. What I mean is, I'm not smart enough to come in here late. Some people are. Some people would be smart enough to come in here and say, against this wall of this building, I bet you would look good if we snuck in some little magenta, purple. I'm not smart enough to do that. It's like, are you kidding? Magenta purple? Right? Not smart enough to do that. But now that I'm painting and there is magenta and purple in here, I'm going, doggone it. That is gorgeous. Okay? That's what I mean. So early, and there's, by the way, the same thing is happening in, let me zoom in here again so you want to see what I'm talking about. The same thing is happening up here. Where'd that red come from? Where'd this red come from? This purple. It's happening all over the canvas. That first purely abstract, crazy splash. You can go back and watch it if you weren't here. That crazy abstract splash that I put down right at the beginning is now showing up so sweet. Well, how did I know how to do that? The answer is happy little accidents. The best painting happens while you're trying hard to do something else. If that's true, then why don't you just do something else? Bingo, that's what I do. So the blue-purple splash at the beginning was an on-purpose happy accident. If happy accidents are the best thing, why don't you do all accidents? Bing. Bingo. That's what I do. That's what that was. Okay, let me just continue painting now for a while, okay? Same thing, I leave a little bit of this green up here because this turns out this upside down bowl, whatever you call this, dome, that's the word, not upside down bowl. This dome is green, right? It's you know, classic historic building, oxidized copper, green roof, right? There, I might be done. That might be all. I don't know if I'm going to do more of that or not. Okay, what next? What next? I just realized. So I said, okay, what next is light highlights, lightest stuff. This corner, the parts of the building that are boom, that I want to explode off this canvas. Play of light, play of light, play of light, play of light, right? What's the most important aspect? Most important aspect of a painting is play of light, exactly. So there's already a whole bunch of play already happening, but by golly, there's going to be a whole bunch more by the time I'm done. Are you with me? There's going to be a whole bunch more play of light, and I'm about to slap it down right now as I'm going to the lightest parts of the painting, where the sun is hitting the corners of this building. By the way, let me point over there and give you a good look at the scene that I'm painting, cropped roughly something like that, right? And for those of you who weren't here early in the day, when I got here, the sun was completely hitting this side of the building. In fact, that is so nice right there. I really need to take a picture. The sun was hitting this side of the building, and I gave serious consideration to painting light here. But I thought, you go back and watch me, I thought, scratched my chin for a number of seconds, minute, and said, no, I think it's going to be better this way. And you know what? Bam! I'm happy to say this time I was right. It was nice coming this way. This is nicer. So finally, the scene that I'm looking at is beginning to reflect my painting. But I'm going to pause here just a minute with my backup camera and take some pictures of this. For reference, I'm going to finish this painting probably at home. By the way, it's a 30 by 40 inch canvas. I would normally give myself 6.5 or 7 hours to finish a painting, and my legs are getting tired. I'm probably going to finish this one at home, but I'd like to be about 95% finished before I head home. And I told my wife a little while ago, I said, I think I'll be home about 4:30 or so. So that's an hour and 15 minutes from now. But while I'm here, let's get some good pictures. And part of getting a good picture is using, let's see, I can show you, using this app right here called Pro HDR. Pro HDR. And a word of warning to you iPhone, Android people, our phones have a quote-unquote HDR function in their camera. Like, you know, in the professional mode, you can go HDR, yes. It's not real HDR, okay? Real HDR takes 3 exposures, dark, light, and medium. Takes 3 pictures, and then in the computer puts them together. So whenever, everybody, it costs $4 or something like that. Every painter should have Pro HDR on their phone. Holding still, 1 picture, 2 picture, 3 picture, okay? And then, so here it is, computing. Bam. Whoops. Okay, so there's the HDR picture. Beats the heck out of, and then of course you can change, you can change the tint, all kinds of stuff. I'm actually gonna darken it a tiny bit. And contrast, no, actually contrast, it's okay. Saturation, usually I crank saturation, but nope. Warmth, a little bit, there we go. So save, and done. Okay, if you're an artist and you paint outside, you need Pro HDR. I should be getting paid for this. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'm gonna turn this phone off because the battery's real low. And then proceed with painting, yahoo. If it looks like I'm having a good time, that because I am. Whew, my legs are complaining a little bit, but the rest of me is happy, happy, happy. By the way, you probably can't hear my music, can you? Maybe you can. Maybe you can. I have my iPod. My iPod is with me. Have 14 days of music on my iPod, but one of my playlists is copyright free, or music that I have paid the composers to use. And this one right here is Eric Terlizzi. Eric Terlizzi, it ought to be, but he pronounces it Terlizzi. Let me see if I can get a little bit more volume. I basically have four artists. The quality's bad. So here we have four artists. I'll tell you who they are. Gintis Abarius, A-B as in boy, A-B-A-R-I-U-S. Sometimes spelled Gintautas. His full name is Gintautas, but just look up Gintis. Very famous in Lithuania, world-class musician, son of the conductor of the Lithuania Symphony Orchestra. Gintis Abarius, dear friend of mine. I got to play with him several times while he was alive. He died about 8 or 9 years ago. Tragic loss to humanity. World class. You can find him on YouTube. And then Eric Terlizzi, dear friend here, local in Raleigh. This is his stuff. Kind of new age, ambient piano and orchestra. Beautiful stuff. Talented guy. Makes you sick. And then a new one, Marlo Caruth. Marlo Caruth on piano, and then finally, whoa, a little bit of wind blowing my stuff down a little bit. Hang on, I haven't had any wind till now. And then finally, McPherson guitar compilation. I got permission from them several years ago. McPherson is a company that makes compound bows and arrows, hunting equipment, bows and arrows, McPherson. And several years ago, they decided to go into the guitar making business. And they must be some pretty smart people, because they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And some of the best guitar players in the country use McPherson 6-string acoustic guitars. Phil Kagi, I don't know that he uses theirs exclusively, but I know he plays on this demo tape. And anyway, so those are the four. That's who's playing over and over again on my when I'm out here painting. Let me zoom in a little bit. I hope I remember to unzoom. This is my favorite trick. I'll zoom in and then go somewhere else and forget that you're still looking at this. So I'll try to remember really hard. And I want you to be able to see the great majority of my strokes in this last final edit are single strokes. That is to say, I don't brush anything. I put the paint, the brush is a delivery tool, not a scrubby, brushy tool. Okay, you students, please pay attention to that. The brush is used for delivering paint to the canvas. After it's done its job, it lifts off the canvas and leaves the paint there. You don't come in like most people do, stick out their tongue and start going brushy. No, that is a horribly misguided impulse. Very intuitive. Almost all beginner students do it, but it is horribly misguided. Did I say that strongly enough? Would you like to hear it one more time? Horribly misguided. Okay, let me back up because I'm afraid I might forget. So here I am again. I'm defining branches. Oh, I need to zoom in because you guys need. I want you to watch this as close as you can. In fact, I'm going to bring you up close. I can't leave you here because I'll be bumping into the stand all the time if I leave you that close to me. But you see all this mess here? I painted what kind of looked like branches, kind of sort of looked like branches, but I mostly just made a real fast mess because I knew I was going to come back at this point and do, again, what I call final edit, which means I'm going to paint over anything that doesn't look like a branch, leaving only the marks that do look like branches. Did you catch that? Did you see? So in the underpainting stages, I just make a big hurried mess. Just a big scribble scrabble, as my kids would have said when they were little. Scribble scrabble. Yes, just make a big scribble scrabble. I have not got all day. Do it fast. You got to be in a hurry. And then, now I come back. Now I'm not scribbling. Now I'm going very carefully, right? And come on, tell me that doesn't look like, doesn't that look like a cool, gnarly, bare branch coming down in front of that building, right? Yes, it does. So that will go into my, how to paint trees clinic, which I will be doing coming up here soon in my online painters forum. I'm going to start talking about that. Time to start advertising, gang. I'm going to start teaching painting online. And it will be a community thing. It won't just be me teaching all by myself. It'll be everybody who pays, everybody who's a part of it will get to weigh in on each other's paintings. In a gentle way, mind you, in a kind way. But we'll all grow together. We'll all learn together. And I won't be the only one. It won't just be smart-ass Dan telling you the right answers to everything. No. It'll be a little bit of everybody. And some people will disagree with me, and that'll be okay. Of course, it's my class, so I get the last word, but still. In fact, tonight, this is Tuesday. This is the second Tuesday of July. I will be attending my local Painters Forum. This is something that I started over 10 years ago. Several of us have been meeting together for more than 10 years. Second Tuesday of every month. We call it Painters Forum. And if this group fell apart and disappeared this month, I guarantee you I would start another group by next month. That's how important peer review is to me. So I hope you're right now catching an understanding, catching a vision for what I mean by final edit. Again, I don't know if you can see this. There's a red-orange shaft of color that goes right through there. I don't know where that came from. My guess is it came from my very first abstract slashes of color that I put on the canvas. I'm going to cover up a tiny bit of it right here, but the rest of it I believe I'm going to leave. And just that little bit of abstract color tucked into the middle of these branches is just beautiful. I'm not smart enough to do something like that. I didn't do that on purpose. I just set up the environment where that kind of thing can sort of accidentally happen. Again, using Bob Ross's language, the best painting that happens are the happy little accidents. And if that is true, and it was about 17, 18 years ago, the light bulb came in, I realized that really was true, not because of Bob Ross. I'm just using his language at the moment. Where I discovered that the best painting happened while you were doing something else, so to speak. So I decided, well, then I should just always, quote unquote, do something else. Which is a good way to describe the early stages, the early steps of my painting process. It's all, quote unquote, something else. Okay, are you with me? So that's starting to look like a tree, isn't it? Starting to look. Now, I've got one more trick up my sleeve. Well, I've got more than one, but here's a fan brush. So I just smeared out that light. I'm going to clean this now because I want to use that again. That means I come back now a second time and put a slightly lighter version of that off-white, and I get thick stuff right here. In fact, this would be a really good place for some palette knife painting. Okay, so I'm picking up this pure warm white. Not quite as light as I want, so hang on, need to mix that up again. Let's do that stroke again, right on top of that one. There we go. Let's mix up some more of this. So, in a way, what I just demonstrated, I do the smear and then come back and paint the definition. One of the breakable laws of painting is when you're painting something that's glowing, which in this case, you understand the corner of this building is glowing. Why? Because it's got sun like just exploding off it, right? So it's glowing. Paint the glow first, in other words, and then come back and paint the thing that's glowing. You can't do it the other way around. Does that make sense? So a little bit of palette knife painting right here, just to super accentuate the intensity of the light hitting this corner of the building. The lightest, brightest, lightest thing that you can put on your canvas is warm white applied with a palette knife. Okay, let me repeat that. The lightest, brightest, whitest thing you can put on your canvas is warm white paint applied with a palette knife. Why? Because the palette knife leaves a perfectly smooth sheen, right? Zick. Therefore, but a brush stroke, like down here where I'm making brush strokes, brush stroke has the marks of the hairs, the marks of the bristles, right? So the surface is all bumpy. If you took a magnifying glass, you'd see ridge, 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 ridge. Those ridges all break down the light reflection so that it's not as bright as the smooth. So I hope that makes sense to you. That is bright. Boom! Even though it's warm white, it's not pure titanium. But that gives me, that's probably the lightest part of my painting. Everything else is going to be subservient to that. Down one tick, down just a tiny bit, just a little bit darker than that, so that corner up there remains the star of the show as far as values, as far as light values go. Okay. I'm going to put this palette knife down, and I may use it again later. Yep, I'm just going to keep on. So I'm going to mix my favorite color. Let me show you my palette just for a second here. My favorite color for warming up white is yellow ochre. Or right here I have Naples yellow. Either one, very, very close second. But I typically use yellow ochre instead of like a yellow, a cad yellow, or even a French yellow. I mean Indian yellow. Because those are too chroma. They're too bazingy. They're too lemony. Too high chroma. So I like yellow ochre to warm up my white. Usually that's what I use, and that's what I've just used right there. So I get a nice big pile. Now let me repeat, one of my most oft-stated mantras, if you will, is that the most important, I'm sorry, the most important aspect of a painting is play of light. Okay, I want to get my words right. The most important aspect of a painting, here's a painting, is play of light. The most important, the essence of good painting. Now the word painting is a verb, not a noun, okay? The essence of doing painting, the essence of good painting is making interesting marks, okay? So it's way more important than the marks that I'm putting down. Of course I want it to look kind of like a building. Of course I want it to look kind of like a Capitol building, and I'm well within that range. Does that make sense? But way more important than similitude is interestingness. Hello. Feel free to come around and look.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
I tried to run you off
Yes,
the other day.
you are. Good to see you. Here, look at that. I don't, honestly, I didn't wear this because I was coming here.
Someone just came up to us and wanted us to know, and you know, when like a visitor comes up and wants to have a complaint, you got to address it.
Yes.
Sorry, but
and what is your role here?
I'm the assistant site administrator.
Excellent.
So, and I know John Ward. So John, I'm not trying to be a mean lady here, John.
Did I talk to you? Because I know I've been on the list to come and do fundraisers for you.
Yeah,
in the past.
Well, we hope you can.
Well, do you know Brenda Baer?
Yes, we know Brenda. Yes,
okay.
She's done many of ours.
Yes, when she gets tired, then call me.
Oh, well, she hasn't done them for us in a long time.
Hasn't she really?
Mm-mm. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe she.
So, when I'm teaching a painting class, especially if it's a class where I'm... Thanks, Nellie. Appreciate that. Especially if it's a class where I'm teaching my technique, whatever we call it, you know. During the first half of the class, like if it's a 6-hour class, I say for the first 3 hours, I dare you, I challenge you, I beg of you, try to be as loose and messy as I am. And very rarely can a student do that. They just can't bring themselves to be messy enough. I understand that. This is a weird business. This business of painting. But then in the second half of the class, I beg, cajole, irritate my students. Say, okay, now, for this, what I'm doing now, the final edit phase, I beg of them now, I beg of you, try to be as neat as I am. And they can't do that either. Okay, so if somebody were to only watch me doing the first half of a painting, only the first 7-8 phases of the painting process, he would say, oh, I get it. I see how Dan Nelson paints. He paints wild and crazy and just throws paint all over the place. Correct. For the first half. But they'd have the completely wrong impression, wouldn't they? Right? Because what am I doing now? Well, it's anything but throwing paint around. Now, I'm still making interesting marks. So most of my strokes are, I slap down the paint and then get away from it. I don't blendy, or what I call brushy. I don't do that. But it's pretty and slow, right? So even though 98% of the decisions have been made on this canvas already, only 75% of the painting time has elapsed, because far and away the slowest part of the painting is this final edit, far and away. And as you can see, I mean, how long is it going to take me to do all this? And I have to be very careful, of course, not to get dotty. And that sort of is my native tongue, if you will. My default setting for painting is ... So I have to be, like, I'm getting close to dotty right here. Let me show you one thing I can do to try to help mitigate against that tendency. Is like, it's a little bit dotty in here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm saying the word dot-ish. Dotty. Okay, here's my friend the fan brush again. And I want to make sure it's good and dry, so let me rub it against my paper towels over here. Okay, and then rub it on my jeans. Okay? So I'm messing up some of those dots. That will help de-dotify, anti-dot those so I don't have that overly dotty texture. Now, I don't like these marks I just made right there, so I'm gonna rub them off with a rag. There, can you see that? That actually looks better. Now, very often, see, and one of the names for that kind of dry brush thing is called scumbling. One of the names for that is called scumbling. And it's a very useful tool for achieving, in this case, anti-dotting, de-dotifying, anti-dotification, de-dotification, there we go, de-dotification. But it creates a texture that we, human beings, don't find particularly winsome or charming. We don't like it so much. It's like, it's okay, but... So it's often a good idea after doing any kind of de-dotification, any kind of scumbling, to come in and hit those light areas just once again. And I'm not changing the color, I'm just changing the texture. Whew. Okay, now I'm getting nervous about just proceeding along that wall. So I'm going to change gears for a minute, and I'm going to go up to this corner. I need to move you guys because you're going to be in my way, so forgive me for just a second. There we go. So let's do the same kind of thing, but with a darker color. Still warm white and plenty bright enough, but darker than what I used over here on this other corner, because this is a secondary highlight or secondary focal point, right? Now, do you know what I'm going to do with this? Right? Have you figured this out? So I'm slapping down some fairly thick, warm white, right? And if you said yes, in a minute you're going to pick up that fan brush and you're going to de-dotify. Yeah, yes, that is correct. Or I'm going to smear. Yes, that word is appropriate. I'm going to fuzz out. Yes, that word is. Now, one of the things I'd like you to see is just, if you were with me a little while ago when I was doing the fuzz layer, see there's already a bunch of fuzz already in this corner. So it's already fuzzed out to a significant degree. It's just I'm going to fuzz it out even more. And as I said, when I was doing the fuzz layer a little while ago, my heart was in my throat because it feels like I'm just ruining it. Like, what are you doing? Look at all that ugly look at those marks you're making. Ooh, I'm not sure those are nice marks. Ew, that's just, ooh. You just smeared a bunch of the paint. Are you? That was the talk. That was what was going on inside my head. But I've learned to shut that voice down and say, no, 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 just it's going to work. Trust me, it's going to work. So here I am, and it is working already. I got company coming, so I'll talk to my friends. Welcome to look. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Feel free to come up closer. So, right now I'm going to, I just put that down and it's too tight. Does that make sense? Too precise. Too precise. So I'm going to make it less precise. That's what I wear these blue jeans for. By taking this brush and see what I'm doing? Now it actually looks like the sun is really hitting. See, I already did that here. Can you see? So there you go, just a little art lesson.
Thank you.
Where are you all from?
India.
And are you just visiting, or do you live here?
No, we visiting.
Really? Well, somebody lives here. You live here. Well, welcome to Raleigh. I hope you have a very good time while you're here.
How long does it take to finish one?
I started this painting about 10:30 this morning, so, and my legs are getting tired.
You're going to sell this off?
Yeah. I don't. Sometimes I sell it here on the spot. Not most of the time. It goes to one of my galleries in Little Art Gallery in Cameron Village. Do you know what Cameron Village is? Yeah. You're the locals.
Yes.
And is this family?
Yeah, all
Is it really? How sweet.
friends that go.
Really? Yes. Well, the underpainting is acrylics and oil on top. Yeah. So every once in a while I sell it here on the street, but 2,000, and it'd be more than that at the gallery. If you want to buy 2, just let me know. I'll be here all afternoon. You're welcome. Thank you for coming by. Welcome to Raleigh. Hope you have a very good visit. Good, good. Okay, that was fun. Okay, so now I've just mixed up a slightly lighter color than what I put down there. Slightly lighter. And sure, let's do palette knife again. Just a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Oh my God, please understand, when the artist says perfect like that, he or she's not bragging. The artist is celebrating, like, oh, that worked out. I can't believe it. That worked. That was great. Okay. Okay. Put that palette knife down. I might be using it again. Sweet. About what, 8, 10 people from India. 2 that have moved here, and all the rest are visiting. That's fun. Part of my responsibility to give them a positive impression of Raleigh and America. Not just Raleigh, mind you, all of America. It's their job to go home and say, wow, all the artists in America are so nice. I love it. I take my responsibility very seriously. Oh. Whoops, I almost went off camera there, didn't I? Again, remember when I was doing red outlines? And I said, now, after doing all these red outlines, the painting is going to have way too much red in it. But don't worry about it, because in the final edit, which is now, I will be removing as much of those red outlines as I think is necessary. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Removing some of the red, now in this case purple, outlines. How much? Don't know, just so that it looks right. Okay, let me back up and let you see the whole painting at this point. You darken this warm white a little bit more. That means a little yellow ochre, slightly darker. Now, here's something that was in this painting at the very beginning, and it's kind of gotten lost. And that is a little bit of bunting. I think it would be very sweet to have a bunting is that red, white, and blue curved thing. Let me go ahead and just finish it real quickly. There's always the ghost of an English major in my head. Whenever I use improper grammar, the ghost in my head always corrects me. So let me finish this up quickly. Adverb, ly. Not finish it up quick. Oh. The ghost is mostly my mom. Bless her. Oh, she of sacred memory. Actually, she's not dead yet, so. Oh, she of living present memory. But I love it. I loved growing up. What an advantage. Those of you who, like me, grew up in a family that spoke proper English. It sets us at such an advantage over those who didn't. Because we know what proper, we sound intelligent. In fact, we may sound more intelligent than we really are, simply because we use proper usage. And by the way, English majors, yes, I know the correct term is not proper grammar. The correct term is proper usage. Get off my case. Yeah. Oh, okay. I've talked so many times about how to paint the American flag or how to paint striped fabric. I don't feel like talking about it all over again, so I'm just going to do it, let you observe and figure it out by watching me. That'd be good enough. And then the blue, and I'm done. I am positive that one of the videos, one of the topics I will cover, a little quick topic in my online painters forum, coming soon to a computer near you, will be how to paint the American flag or how to paint striped fabric or patterned fabric. There, done. See, it looks like fabric, doesn't it? Looks like something kind of fluttering in the breeze. Yep. Okay, well, I've still got this light off-white stuff on my brushes. Let's go ahead and finish some of the architecture. All the way up here. Okay. Whoops, I missed you, lost you for a second there. I'm so sorry. Now I have sun hitting my canvas over here, see? And you cannot paint, absolutely cannot paint with sun hitting your canvas. I say absolute, right? And then I say, well, I don't mean that absolutely. You really can't paint. You really can't paint with sun hitting your canvas there. How about that? This is not an absolute statement. This is a relative statement. It's relatively difficult. So difficult to be described as in the common colloquial use of the word absolute. Oh my goodness. Again, the English major in my head. Probably in need of an exorcism, actually. Cast the ghost of English major out of my head. Whoa! That's even worse. Okay, hang on. So what I have to do is start turning my canvas this way. I started out the day by turning this way. Now I'm going to be going the other way. Excuse me. Okay. Now, I really must finish this main wall. I'm mixing up a much darker warm white. It won't look much darker because of the area around it, but it is. You know what? I'm nervous about. I'm afraid if I continue this treatment all the way over, I will radically over-dotify, which will then be in need of de-dotification, right? The word we agreed on earlier today. I know we agreed on it, really, deep down. We did, I promise. You'll be saying, what? What? I didn't know it'd come to a vote. Yeah, it did. You just missed it. You blinked and you missed it. Okay, let's get out this wonderful. By the way, if you don't have a fan brush, then I'll go ahead and do. Then a cheap chip brush will work pretty well for the same purpose. It's a little bit stronger than a fan brush. Excuse me. I have some water here. Let me take a drink. Okay, I think I'm seeing my way out of this problem here. I'm going to mix up again, considerably darker orange, yellow-orange color, and come in here and just hit just a few dots. Again, the dots are the problem here. Right? Keep them fairly messy. Okay, I think that's working, and that's probably all I need to do. The viewer's brain will finish this as a wall. I don't think I have to do any more to that, as far as that goes. Wait, I've got this lovely, warm orange on my brushes right now. Yellow orange. Let me take advantage of that. Put it over here. I'm just going to save these brushes. I need to do some cleaning up. First of all, let's clean up the palette. Forgive me. Dust in throat, evidently. Sorry, hang on. Get out the pocket knife. Just scrape the dry paint off the palette knife. There we go. My Swiss Army knife goes with me everywhere. Okay, what's next? What is next? I think the next thing I want to tackle is actually the mullions, the dividers in these windows, because that is going to be such an important element. Let me take just a minute to show you this scene. I think you can see it. Yeah. There you go. Okay, do you see the dividers, mullions? Very nice lighting. In fact, I need to pause here and take another picture. Take a minute for that phone to boot up. Okay, let me repeat an oft-repeated maxim. I like that word, maxim. Here it is. Anytime that you are painting a highly repetitive motif. Motif means a little visual thing that gets repeated over and over and over. Motif is a musical term and a visual term. It'll be clear what I mean as soon as I give you the example. Anytime you're going to paint an oft-repeated, if something appears in your scene, in your painting, a whole bunch of times, it is important that you come up with, that you invent a number of different techniques for rendering that oft repeated motif. Okay, now let me cut through the jargon for those of you who are not English majors. Say, what did he just say? Okay, so in this scene before me, the mullions, that's the name for these dividers in the windows. There's hundreds of them. Look at every window has dividers in it, right? So that is a oft repeated motif, the dividers in the windows. Anytime you have such a thing, highly repetitious shape, you must invent, you must come up with several different ways, techniques, approaches to painting, to rendering those shapes. So at the moment, and by the way, I've already rendered them several times. I'm assuming you can see here. You can see pencil lines in there, see? You can see negative painting up here, and positive and pencil lines, positive painting here, a little bit of palette knife stuff in the acrylic layer, I think that was. Okay, so now I've got light paint on my brushes. I'm looking over to my left to look at these. Let me speak in the negative. So you just saw me put 1, 2, 3, 4 marks. This one's very short. This one's the longest one. Four times. And I'm going to do it again. 5, 6. Now these lines are skinnier. 7. So I've made 7 marks, and I'm going to do a little bit more. Uh-oh. Now I really am getting dangerous here. I'm in danger. 8, 9, 10, 11. What am I in danger of? I am in danger of boring repetition. So let's change gears. Now I've got a palette knife. So the marks that I'm making now, although similar to the brush marks, are not the same. Now it might look the same to you, but that's the difference between seeing artwork in person and, you know, on a screen. They feel different. These marks that I'm doing now feel different enough that they give you a different feeling, especially when I accidentally smear that one like that. There, oh, that's sweet. See that, just that little double dip there. So now I have, besides what I had done earlier, pencil lines, negative and positive, now I have, right in this area, two different techniques for rendering. Now back to the first technique of brush. Let me demonstrate a different technique now for this window over here. What in the world? What is he doing? Well, I don't know. Of course, it remains to be seen whether it'll work. Now I'm going to try to scratch out from those. Ooh, worked better than I thought it would. So now I'm negative scratching. I'm scratching out the dark areas between the mullions. But it's not dark enough, right? So I'm going to pick up a small brush, and I still have a little bit of leftover dark purple-ish paint over here. Watch this. Now, on this window, am I or am I not giving the impression of a window that's got mullions, dividers in it? The answer is yes, of course. I am giving the impression of a window, dark window with light mullions. But it was rendered completely differently than this one, and these two are rendered partly with brush and partly with palette knife. So here I have 3 different techniques for rendering mullions. Here's another one. I just dip my brush handle combined again now with some negative painting, putting paint on, but painting in the negative, not painting the mullions, but painting the dark bits between the mullions. That I've got enough variety there now that I can afford to come in here with a little bit of a brush. Okay, get the idea? So I've got 4 different methods of rendering mullions, they're called. 4 different methods of rendering mullions. In those 4 windows. Little palette knife, little brush, and a little scratching. Got it? Etc. So by the time I'm finished, I will want to have rendered these like 4 different techniques. That's a pretty good number. 5 would be better. And I think I'm up to 5 with that scratching I just did a minute ago. And I hope you're saying, why? Okay, the answer is, okay, this goes under the breakable law of painting. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks, right? The very essence, the very sine qua non, if I'm saying that right. If I'm not, somebody correct me. I'm looking for the Latin term, sine qua non. It means without which, nothing. If you ain't got this, you ain't got nothing, honey. The sine qua non, without which, nothing. If you don't got this, you're not painting good. And this is interesting marks. Okay? I say this often. Is Richard Schmid a better painter than I am? Doggone it. Yes, he is. Irritates the fire out of me. I hope you understand the spirit in which I'm saying that. It's a healthy kind of envy, a healthy kind of competition. Because I'm willing to crawl through a field of glass. Not a field of grass, a field of glass. Not literally, but you get the point. To learn what Richard Schmid knows that I don't know yet. Okay? And yes, I've got his book, and yes, I'm devouring his book slowly. Why is he better than me? Because his marks are better than mine. I don't know if he knows that, but I know that, and I'm right. So I'm trying to figure out, what does he know that I don't know yet? What does he know about marks that I'm still have yet to discover? And if I knew, I would know, but I don't know, so I don't know. But I do know it's marks. Okay, so the essence of making the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Are you with me so far? And the essence of interestingness, the core, the essence of interesting is variety. There you go. Are you with me? The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. And what marks are interesting? Varied marks, different kinds of marks. So there's the exact answer, precise bullseye answer to the question. Why is it important to render a repeated motif with many different techniques, variety? And I know he could have said that right off the bat and saved you a lot of work, but you wouldn't have understood the significance of it. So thanks for being with me. After doing all that, here's a funny thing. I'm not entirely thrilled with the look of all that. I'm not. It's like it's a little bit too contrasty, a little too punchy. So I'm not erasing. I'm painting with a rag. Big difference. Erasing is you get all grumpy and mad at yourself and try to take stuff off. No. That's not. I'm painting with a rag. I'm diminishing the contrast of what I just put down. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at myself. I'm still painting. Yeah, but I was painting with a paper towel for a second there. That is a little better. I think my white that I'm using might be a little bit too strong. So I'm gonna gray it down, blue it down, brown it down a little bit for the next layer of windows. Okay. And by the way, if I ever do really get in a place where I'm uncomfortable with, you know, something that's happening, I feel free to turn you guys off, and that's very conceivable. Sometimes, I mean, most of the time, I love your company and I love being watched. Every once in a while, I go, ugh, I'm irritated at the moment. I need some privacy. I'm not there right now, but I'm within shouting distance of that. There, that's nice, that's nice. Just a little scratch, make it even better. Go back to my dark brush here for a minute. Oh, that's where I was. That's where I was. Let me repeat everything that I just said, but with different words. Okay? How do you paint a highly repeated motif? Let me use different words completely. The answer is process. The answer is layers, 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 layers. Or process, process, process. Does that make sense? That's how you paint. Usually I use the term, how do you paint any highly textured or variegated is my favorite word. Variegated. How do you paint any highly variegated subject matter? And the answer is, carefully, and the answer is layers, stages, process. You don't try to knock it out all at once. You take your time, you let the image emerge slowly out of the mist. Got it? That's another way to describe exactly what I'm doing here. How do you paint busy windows? You don't do it all at once. You do it slowly, little by little, layer by layer, phase by phase, stage by stage. I think that's one of the chief mistakes that I see amateurs, beginner painters doing. They have to paint all the windows. So they break out their brush, stick out their tongue, and just whack them all out. Just paint them. Just paint them. What's the must? No muss, no fuss. Just paint them. That's a wrong impulse. An analogy, an illustration I often use in that regard is it's easy for a third grader to paint a pumpkin. You give a third grader all of my paints, you know, a full complement of paints and a couple brushes and a canvas, and say, paint a pumpkin. No problem. Third grader has no problem painting a pumpkin. They pick up a brush, they stick it in which pot of paint, which color? Right. Whoops. I have to go put more money. I can't believe I'm still here. I have to go put more money in the parking meter. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me finish that analogy. I got a couple of minutes. The kid and the beginner painter, the amateur, the wannabe, the starter student painter, easy to paint a pumpkin. All you do is pick up your brush, stick it in orange paint, and paint the darn pumpkin. End of story. Right? How does a professional paint a pumpkin? Oh, now that's a different story. Picks up his brush or brushes, dips it in green, dips it in red, dips it in purple, dips it in blue, dips it in red, dips it in yellow, dips it in white, green, yellow, purple, blue, orange, purple, blue, orange, purple, blue, orange, yellow, brown, green. And at the end of the process, he's got a pumpkin to die for. Got it? Get the point? So how would a beginner paint these windows? Easy. Stick out their tongue, pick up their brush, stick it in white paint, and paint the damn windows. Forgive my French. There, I'm getting there. I'm fairly happy with that. I'm happy to say that I'm fairly happy with the way that's coming. I need to run a block away now and put more money, give more money to the City of Raleigh parking, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, thanks for watching. I'm back already. I did not go and put money in the meter. I decided, wait a minute, it's 4:15. I need to pack up and get out of here. So that's the end of today's broadcast. Thank you so much for watching. You may watch me finish this painting probably tomorrow. And I've had a good time. Hope you have. Again, thanks for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow.